Nehru Memorial Museum and Library for our public lecture. Like it, leave it. Donald Trump is the President of the United States of America. At the same time, over the years, the Indo-US relationship has developed into a very multifaceted relationship. It's not just a matter, it is, of course, leadership is very important, but now the relationship has taken on different levels where there are dialogues at least 20, 25 platforms going on different aspects. So therefore, this is a relationship which has been developing over the years, and each government has been building on the past. However, Trump, as in many ways other changes happening, does represent apparently a big shift, a disruption you may call it, or you may call it readjustment or whatever it is. I think that is something which everybody wants to know what is happening. Very happy Dr. Ashok Sharma, who's a fellow at the Australia-India Institute at Melbourne, and he has been working on this for a long time. His book is called Indian Lobbying and its Influence in US Decision Making, recognizing that in the United States, lobbying is considered a wholly respectable profession. You are registered lobbyists, lobbyist firms working, and governments, companies, interest groups do use lobbies to seek and influence developments. And that is something that we have, Indians have been using it. The Indian American community developed strong lobbies which led to linkages with other lobbies, development of the India Caucus, etc. And this is a field that he has been working on. After his BA from Delhi University and Masters and MPhil and PhD from JNU, he has been in think tanks in India. And you were involved with the 2004 US election tracking, ORF mein. Avanti ke saath, Avanti Bharti mein. Wonderful, wonderful. He is working on it at New Zealand and at Australia. I've not come across too many Indians who've been academics in New Zealand, Australia, yes. So it's always very good to have a different perspective. Now his broad themes has been on not just international broadly and security studies, but a focus on ethnic lobbying in the US foreign policy, US-India relations, India's relationship with Australia and New Zealand, Great Power Equations, Asia-Pacific, etc. And he regularly speaks on these at different forums in Australia, the United States, New Zealand, and India, including before the Royal New Zealand Defence Forces. So I'll not take more time. I'll request Dr. Ashok Sharma to speak to us for about half an hour.
Yeah,
and then we want, I can see lots of very distinguished.
So I would rather go for interaction.
So we'll have a good interaction. Huh? Okay, so over to you.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'm honored, and thank you, Dr. Ravikant Mishra. And I can see a lot of faces which I know, and from JNU, and I can see. And thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Manoj. And it's a pleasure to be here. And here I am in India for a month, and I have been giving talks everywhere. And actually, I'm lobbying for my book on Indian lobbying in the United States. So that's my entire purpose, and I have been giving talk everywhere on India-US relations and India-Americans. But India-US relations, just geostrategic and all that talking, perhaps would be, I think a lot of people are talking. So my focus more will be on why lobbying will be important in the coming what exactly. So let's talk about something. Let me start with 28 September 2014. Prime Minister Modi walks on Medicine Square, and he is greeted by over 20,000 Indian American people. But along with that, there were also 42 US congressmen. While the presence of those 20,000 Indian Americans could be understood in the context of Modi coming to power with a thumping majority in the Indian general election, which we couldn't see in the last 3 decades. But the presence and that the kind of hope and expectations and enthusiasm that created among Indians in the United States and across the globe. But the presence of those 42 US congressmen in that gathering tells something different story. Again, 1 year later, 2016, 20 Prime Minister Modi's address to US joint session, US Congress joint session, and that was very much applauded by 66 clapping intervention and 9 standing ovation. Thus again, Addison, and these congressmen, it tells something, is not just geostrategic and geoeconomic convergence. It is maturing of Indian lobbying, Indian American lobbying firms hired by Indian mission in the United States, lobbying individual lobbyists hired by Indian government, and that is a culmination of that maturing and culmination of Indian lobbying in the United States, which is reflected in these congressmen applauding the Modi's visit there. My assertion is of the entire book and entire topic has been that notwithstanding the geostrategic convergence between India and the United States after the end of the Cold War, notwithstanding the geoeconomic convergence between India and United States in the post-Cold War after India's liberalization was initiated by P.V. Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh combination, and then Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh and now Modi. Notwithstanding the growing interaction between Indian and American business community, notwithstanding the kind of values and principles of democracies we share in terms of Anglo-judicial system, parliamentary government, and notwithstanding the cultural exchange which are taking place, had it not been Indian lobbying, this drastic transformation between India and the United States would not have been possible. A partnership which is touted as a partnership, defining partnership of the 21st century. And so that's the assertion, and I would go that why lobbying is important in the United States and why US-India relations were so bad. Well, there is during the entire Cold War period, and in fact till 1990s, we see that despite those agreed minutes on defense cooperation or a quick lighter proposal or defense policy group, we could not reach to a level which could be called as a partnership. If you look at the Congress perception during the Cold War period, you will find that it was very negative during the entire Cold War, the kind of debates that used to take place. Only 5% legislators were there who were interested in India or Indian issues. And nuclear issues and financial assistance, those were the two issues which will often damage India's perception and India's voting record for the UN resolution, for the US resolution, voting record against the US resolution in the United Nations General Assembly, and that was also reflected in there. So there was a very negative perception about India, and there was not much of a Indian American community, or there was not much of population. So an Indian American community were not in a very good, a big position, on a good position during the initial years of the Cold War. It all started after 1965. But before that, it was like, in patches, Indian Americans reached there, and a very famous Hindu monk, fluent English speaker, Swami Vivekananda went there and addressed the Conference of Religion in Chicago in 1893, and that created a kind of a media. It attracted a lot of media attention. But after that, 100, 200, 300 immigrated. Gadar movement was there during the interwar period, but nothing much had happened. But it was only after 1965 when Lyndon B. Johnson that brought the Immigration Act, the Indians started immigrating to the United States, and that period also collided with the establishment of institutions like IITs and IIMs and medical colleges and engineering colleges were created. Not much of the opportunities for Indians, and they started going there. And most of the people used to go to America for greener pasture. And the 1780s, they became very professionally successful. They started immigrating, and by the 90s, they emerged as a very powerful, successful professional group. And that period also collided with the end of the Cold War. That period collided with the India was in a bad shape. India went for the reforms, economic reforms. That period was also, India needed to engage the United States. That time, we were left with our ally, which was broken. It was no more superpower, and at that time, the strategic geometry that was taking place, India needed to replace it, reconstruct its foreign policy dimension. and a foreign policy agenda. And that was also a period when Pakistan and China were hobnobbing, and the nuclear and defense and missile cooperations started increasing there. That was also a period when still, even after the end of the Cold War, there were people in the Congress and in the US Congress and executives, they were very anti-India. That was also a period when Indian Americans reached to a level where they could now start playing an active role in politics. And there were formation of a lot of political organizations, Indian American Forum for Political Education, Indian American Committee for Political Awareness, but above all, that was reflected in US Congress with the formation of India Caucus in the US Congress. That was in 1993. Stephen Solas used to be a single legislator, a congressman, Jewish American, who would speak for India during the entire Cold War period. But he lost his election, and there was a very smart politician, Frank Pellon. He sensed the opportunity, and because of redistribution of that, he won the election. And a lot of Indian Americans in New Jersey, they constituted as a major vote bank. So he started making this India Caucus with McDermott and 6 other congressmen, all Democrats, were convinced to join India Caucus. 1 Republican and 7 diplomats joined that. And within 1 year, it reached to 50. There used to be a Dan Burton. So their strategy was how to counter now Pakistani lobby. Pakistani lobby was very active at that time. And India was trying to engage America, especially on defense cooperation just started, but still we had a socialist mixed government in 1995-96, and that was not going well. And this Brown Amendment was brought, and which created a furor in India that no, America is still seeing India with a Cold War prism, a Cold War ideological baggage. So, and BJP, principal opposition party, gave a call for nuclear test. India went for nuclear test, and never in the history of Indian diplomacy, the kind of diplomacy and maneuvering and lobbying that India resorted to in the United States, that was amazing. In fact, contrary to the imagination of many people, in fact, India US started becoming good after that. Strategic engagement that was done with the Jaswant Talbot talk, along with the lobbying that took place by Indian American community, by India Caucus, and none other than Henry Kissinger was the person who, and a lot of Republican, a couple of prominent Republican president also started speaking for India, that yes, India needed nuclear tests. And that was the beginning of this. Before that, the India Caucus, the way they lobbied for India was applauding Indian democracy. Trying to bring all the positive aspects of India, trying to show that what Indian businesses are offering, India's economic reforms are offering, what kind of opportunities that are being offered by India to American businesses. So those things were highlighted. It was brought in U.S. Congress, and that was taken very well taken by executive and President of the United States. And we see that when Bush and Vajpayee came, the kind of strategic environment that was there, Chinese military assertiveness, and the 9/11 thing happened, and that security threat environment and strategic geometry that was shaping, and that fall well into India-US relation strategic partnership context, and that has started there. Then later on, we see that within 4 or 5 years, we see that from 2 military exercises during the entire Cold War period, we reach 50. And today, India conducts maximum number of military exercises with the United States than any other country in the world. So that is a kind of a change in, because military exercises you don't do like that. It is a mutual confidence, the kind of mutual confidence which India and America has got, and that is reflected in this. Like Australia, America. They are sort of a very strong allies, and that kind of interoperability which is happening there, that is not possible without a kind of change in perception in U.S. Congress, in public general, those who are in policy circle. That was there, and you see that after that nuclear deal, how that was the final arrival of Indian lobbying, the way Indian American community, the way they tried to convince all the congressmen who were from Democrats, who were more against in this nuclear non-proliferation, these nuclear exceptions to India than the Republican congressmen. So that was something which was, you can say that the final arrival of lobbying, but after India, the Indian lobbying went down, India-US relations went down, Indian Americans did not have anything of that high level of the issue on which they could be activated. So it went down. They could not do anything on Cobrigade issue. But after Prime Minister Modi came, he has reactivated those models of Indian American lobbying. He has made all those sections of Indian American lobbying. He made Jewish American community. After Prime Minister Vajpayee, he was the second Prime Minister to meet this Jewish American community and try to get involved in them. This IPEC is now a couple of points I will talk about the IPEC thing. That IPEC is the king on a hill, American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and they lobby on behalf of Israel. And Indian American community, they have formed the organizations like Indian American Forum for Political Education, Indian American Committee for Political Awareness, and then US-India Political Action Committee. These are they follow the models of IPEC and American Jewish Council, all those organizations, and they are they are helped by them also. They are they have been supported during the Kargil incident, during India's nuclear test, and during the nuclear deal. They gave all kind of support. Indian American lobbying, they have been successful because of their resources, their strength, their leadership, and above all, it has to fall into the strategic priority of America. And there are a couple of things which is important, and that is one is you need to fall in the broader strategic and foreign policy agenda of America if any ethnic community want to lobby in America. So that was provided after the end of the Cold War, and then after the 9/11, and when the Bush-Vajpayee administration started making this partnership really workable, you can see that convergence happened, and Indian American lobbying came as a facilitating factor in India-US relations. So what I am saying here is that despite these the kind of uncertainty that has been created because of Trump administration coming, and the kind of things have been, there are a couple of points which we must think. That India-US relationship is based on one of the, first of all, geopolitics, which is taking shape. It is very much manifested in which can be very much characterized and can be tested by neorealism theory of John Mearsheimer, who says that one established hegemon does not allow other regional hegemon to grow, and that is China, which is asserting and everywhere is creating a problem for America and challenging, and be it NAFPAC or be it in Indo-Pacific region, and there India is indispensable for America. What India offers, no country in the world offers to America, both in terms of bigger market, both in terms of the defense cooperation, that is one thing. The way security threat environment has been perceived by two leaders, Vajpayee and Bush administration, Vajpayee and Bush, after 9/11, like in terms of Islamic terrorism, that is still continuing. It is Al-Qaeda is replaced by Islamic State, and Bush was too much of concern was there, and same BJP. So neocon and RSS, that is about Levi-Strauss theory. He has given a theory of kind of which fits into this neorealism and RSS. And I've been working on that theory to bring this now. Why Trump and Modi administration will again have that kind of convergence, and so the similar kind of security threat environment is still there. China is asserting. And that security threat environment is still continuing because of Islamic terrorism. These are the two continuing factors. Businesses, yes, we have grown like $5-10 billion to around $100 billion. People are saying that it's also saying. I don't think that is something of a big concern. There will be some kind of thing, but not high-end jobs. There are issues in that, but for which Indian lobbying will need. Here comes Indian lobbying to play an important role. And there is a Hindu Republican Foundation, Salab Kumar is doing so. You never heard this kind of thing. And Donald Trump was engaged by their overseas friends of BJP and people saying that ab ki baar Modi Sarkar. All those things are not heard before anyone saying like that. So Indian Americans have engaged Modi very well. And that is something, there is a convergence on ideological and security threat environment that is there. There is the models of Indian lobbying, which would be very beneficial, and Prime Minister Modi has already activated it. It was down during the UPA 2, it was in bad shape, and also because of there was not much of nuclear deal magnitude, like nothing much of that magnitude of nuclear deal. United Nations Security Council is there, NSG is there. These are the issues where again you have to lobby for that. It's not just strategic convergence is there or security threat environment is converging, and the intricacies of American foreign policies are very well known, that how lobbying, why lobbying is legitimized there. It's a very much ingrained in American Constitution. Very first amendment to U.S. Constitution and Federalist paper, it says freedom of assembling, right to form groups, right to petition the government. It is a very essence of American democracy. America is the nation of nations. Immigrants have come there, so they all have right to form this group. And then you have then you have a separation of powers, checks and balances, and separation of powers is on every stage of government, federal, state, and local. And then in branches of the government, president, executive, legislature, and judiciary. So you have multiple access points in America to lobby. If you are not able to defend your legislation, or you are not able to defeat a legislation, you still can continue lobbying there. And it is a very much legitimized through regulation of lobbying by government itself has regulated. In 1852, it tried to bring a legislation, but fell in 1867. But since 1911, there has not been a single session in U.S. Congress that has not debated the lobbying process in America. All the governments have tried to curb the power of lobbying, but lobbying continues to be effective. And it is a very much, and the first time a bill was brought, Foreign Agents Registration Act in 1938, when Nazi and fascist government were trying to do some propaganda in America, so that they needed to register, and that time that law came. Then in 1946, a law came which continued till 1995, and then 1995 there was a Lobbying Regulation Act came, and then Lobbying Disclosure Act 2007. Donald Trump is again trying to bring some reforms, and this. You can see the power of lobbying. The gun lobby, National Rifle Association of America, NRIA, how powerful it is despite this. But even that is also, there is one aspect of that is that, America is it's a sheer power of lobbying, but also it is acceptable in American society. They are at ease with lobbyings. They are at ease with the lobbyings, business lobby. It's a culture of America to voice their opinion by forming organizations and informations. So in my opinion, that whatever things are happening, there are 3-4 factors which will continue to shape India-US relationship. It is on a stage where it cannot be derailed. But it can be a kind of, it can be put backstage if we don't do lobbying. That's something which is there. So we need to keep talking like that. We need to talk to the government. We need to do lobbying, and these lobbying models have been activated. And today, America does not see India through a hyphenated way of an ideological baggage of Cold War. So you could see that it is defining partnership of the 21st century. And there are a couple of points which I would like to say is that above all, this perception why it has changed. You see in America, it's like, in addition to all this success of doctors and engineers and professors, Indians make the mark in the heart of corporate America. Rajat Gupta at McKinsey, Gangwal at US Airway, Vikram Pandit at Citibank, Indra Nuvi at PepsiCo, and now this is being replicated in Microsoft, Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai at Google. So this is a kind of a perception that has changed in America among the business community, and that is also going to help India for this. There is one very famous incident which I would like to quote before this entire lobbying aspects, is that President Roosevelt, a delegation of businessmen came and they tried to convince President Roosevelt and for some deal. And President Roosevelt, after listening to them, said that, look, I am convinced, go and bring pressure on me. And that is the essence of America. So lobbying will continue to be relevant, and I think that India-US relations will have same pace which we are having, but we need to wait and watch for at least 100 days of Trump administration. Thank you very much. I'm very much happy to take our questions. Thank you.